Pop in, say hi. If you haven't come into one of my lives before, hi, I'm Cindy. I explore the inside and the outside. And here on Sunday nights, we kind of get together. We have a little crew that we have been kind of moving along in different ways, but at the same time coming in on Sunday nights, like show and tell, right? Like show and tell, and just sharing in our lives, sharing in those little pieces that keep us connected, right? Lots of times we have issues when it comes to trust, right? We have issues when it comes to meeting new people, making connections, sometimes just those small pleasantries. And I would love to think that, here hanging out with me, that everybody gets an opportunity to be seen and to be heard if they want to be. Now, if you don't want to be, I get that too, right? Just hang out in the background with us, right? And if at any moment you come into the live and you want to pop in, hello, Owen, and then you want to pop in and say hi, that would be absolutely amazing. And sometimes I'm a big believer in baby steps, not like, and there is no judgment in that because we all have issues. And you guys would just think it's so funny and so minuscule to some of those things that make me weak in a moment or stress me out or things that trigger me, right? But here we can appreciate each other for who we are. Those little, I don't know, are they little dings that we pick up along the way? A little bit of static that's in our lives. Sometimes it's just not having people to rub with, not having people, right? I've been with Owen here, or should I say Owen's been with me, or should I say me and Owen here have been together for, oh my goodness, are we going on 10 years now, Owen? He showed up just shortly after I started my YouTube, and I've been here for 11 years. Owen was one of my very first. Andrew's here too, another one, right? Been with me for over 10 years. And in those 10 years, it has been a long time, hasn't it, Owen? I'm so appreciative of you. I tell you, it is in these connections that in any other way, we probably would have never met. We would never become acquaintances, let alone friends. And it's because we live in this day and age that nobody suspected was coming along. There were lots of signals, those cartoons, the Jetsons, right? Star Trek. There were clues that we were going to be moving in this direction. And some of them, right? Some of us did pick up those clues. Look at Elon Musk right now. Oh my goodness. In in when I was a kid, it was like Carl Sagan, right? And he was the big space guy. And it's really interesting that how we get these little, but that's the creative part of it, right? That's somebody putting an idea into action and making it happen, right? And if we didn't show up here on Sunday, you guys, right? If we didn't show up here on Sunday nights every week for all these years, I take a little bit of time off in September. Otherwise, I believe I am pretty consistent. Tardy, yes, right? But that is in my prerogative, and I don't even really think that it is unintentional a lot of times. A lot of times it is. We were talking about the weaknesses, those things that somebody might think is frivolous and Oh my goodness, right? But for me, it's in that procrastination of coming in and maybe making a fool of myself, putting my foot in my mouth, maybe disrespecting somebody I care about. And these I've got to understand because I work in social media. I work in emotions, right? But I work in social media. I am a YouTube creator. I'm part of the YouTube community, right? And so I understand that it takes time and everything. And in my willingness to do those baby steps and to feel sometimes that I'm making a mistake in what I'm doing or what I'm saying. Oh, I want to read this. Okay, I think I've lost the thought already. I got all excited. When I see Andrew is pretty amazing with his insights. He has these things that are really interesting. I'm really grateful to have brainiacs on my team, right? But I have all different kinds of people on my team. I've got the most beautiful, beautiful hearts, the most beautiful support systems, you guys. Oh my goodness. Owen, right? You remember the first lives, Owen? The very first live. So, oh my goodness. So you have been with me since the very, very beginning. Andrew says, reminds me of a poem, Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star. I know exactly where you are. And if you ask me how I know, Carl Sagan told me so. Oh my goodness. I was reading that. And it's funny because when I was reading that, it sent me right back to my childhood. Because of my childhood, I would wish on the stars, right? I was big. I don't know about you guys wishing on stars, but as you were, I was reading and I was saying that's not how it goes. And then in my mind, I'm going, oh my goodness, maybe I missed a verse or something in that song. And then, right, and then I read the whole thing. Andrew, that's really cool. I really like that. Twinkle, twinkle, little star. I know exactly where you are. And if you ask me how I know, Carl Sagan told me so. I love that. I love that. I actually have a book here. Has anybody ever seen this book, Visions of the Universe? It's prints. It's all prints, scientific prints. Remember when we talk about innovation and technology, people dreamed this before it actually happened. And I'm probably pretty certain that some of these prints in here came from an imagination before they were even photographed. They came from somebody's curious mind who thought about possibilities and what it would look like, not necessarily the person or the aircraft or the technology that actually got the real image, but somebody who thought of it beforehand. Um, yeah, I really like that poem. You do have a head full of trivia. That's beautiful. I was actually talking to somebody. I'm going to stop here before I go on with the book. I don't know what I was going to say about the book. We'll go back to it because it's a great book. I'll show you some of the pictures. I was at the bus stop the other day. Now, where was I going? Oh, I was going to get my resumes and some government papers printed off at Staples. And when I was standing at the bus stop, it was long spaces of time walking. I was so cold. I was so sick that night, but I was at that bus stop for about a half an hour, and I was talking to this gentleman, and probably, I would say maybe 35 years old. But he was like obviously extremely handicapped, but not handicapped, because me and him had a conversation for probably 20 minutes while we were waiting for the bus. Then I saw the bus come and I said, I can't remember his name now. We introduced each other. I said, it was a pleasure. It was an absolute pleasure talking to you. I says, it's such a skill to be able to carry on a conversation, you know, listening and learning and reading books and having little bits of information. Oh, I wish I remembered his name. If you had a little bit of information, you're always going to be able to have a conversation with somebody. Right? Look at us. We're having this conversation, I said to him. And he was all proud of himself. And it was just, you could just tell nobody had ever said anything to him like that before in his entire life. And like I said, he was probably 35 or 40 years old, specifically challenged, right? Right. Like seriously, right? Probably challenged to be at the very least in a group home, like he's overseeing somehow, right? But nobody obviously had ever said anything like to that to him in his entire life. And he took so much pride in it. And at that moment, I looked up and I said, really nice talking to you. I said my little spiel about conversation, how important it is to socialize. And that was such a great conversation. I enjoyed it so much. See you next time. And then I noticed the bus coming was not my bus. Oh, right. Oh, I'm so cold. I'm thinking. So I go back into the bus shop with him, and there's another elderly lady now in the bus shack with us, and he goes right back into the conversation because it was like a permission for him to show how much he really did know, how much he understood. And I thought it was absolutely beautiful. And when I left that bus shack, the lady who was in the bus shack with us even mentioned it too. And we never know what kind of gifts we can give to each other, right? But that was a gift that only needed to be recognized because that was a gift he had given himself, right? By taking the initiative, by being brave enough, by taking an interest, having a curious mind, and being able to pick up those little tidbits of conversations, interest based. A lot of it was sports and stuff, right? He's probably very savant, right? Because he was talked about numbers and dates, and he had a lot of historical facts and stuff, which I thought was, well, Andrew knows. I think that stuff is cool, right? I love to learn, right? And I'm in it every single day. But sometimes you don't want to feel like you're a teacher. Sometimes you really do want to feel like you're in a conversation, right? And that's what me and this gentleman were in. We were in a conversation, and it was kind of a really beautiful moment. Now, why was I telling you that story? Why did I stop? I will go back in the comments here. Reminds me of a poem. I don't think it was that. Uh, uh, I don't know. Oh, you got your Christmas card. Oh, and did it come before Christmas? I sent them out 2.5 weeks before Christmas for the ones for the States. So just coming down here, just trying to find out what triggered me to say that converse. Oh, it was because Andrew was talking about how he likes to pick up trivia. And I think this is what this gentleman liked to do, was to pick up trivia. But when he does that, it offered up a skill of being social, right? To be able to socially get along with people who are different than them. I believe in it totally. Right? Like you said, you like to pick up trivia. I like to pick it up because they're good openers in conversations with people. You know, how many times can you comment on what a beautiful day today is it? Right? You know, how's your day going? Like, you know, everybody would like to bring a little bit more to the table in their conversations, but sometimes we get stuck in those things that make us feel small, right? And in the moment we stumble over ourselves, we get a little bit nervous, right? Think people are mind reading and going to think we're silly or not intelligent or not interesting, right? Lots of things. I can just go on and on about it, right? You know, I picked up some skills along the way in my natural life in my regular day-to-day living, right? Before I woke up to some of these ideas. And I even delved into it even deeper because of the gifts that I learned along the way, that I looked at them as tools, and I enthusiastically went to town and used all those badges that I had picked up in my life because I earned them. But with the new tools, the new understandings, oh my goodness, did I ever. I can't help it. I turned that into magic. I blew my own mind, let alone anybody else's, that I didn't think or believe that I had the capability. I had the physical, I had the determination, but the heart, the kindness, the understanding, right? When I brought that to the table, wow. And a lot of that were new skills, things that I picked up along the way after I woke to some of these ideas. But the combination of the two offered me up understandings and a little bit of comfortableness in being able to walk into a group of people I don't know, or to be able to come in and maybe take a little hit by putting my foot in my mouth, or get to understand that, you know, the people who watch my content are very kind. I never have problems on this channel, right? If I had channels, it would be gone. You guys can see my moderators. My moderators are dedicated, right? And they'll come in here and they'll go in there like ninjas. And make those decisions because I feel like they're extension of me, that they look out for my best interest, right? They care for me as much I care for them. And so it makes me more comfortable as I go along, that I can let go a little bit, right? I still haven't truly gotten the hang of hitting that live button every time, right? It is a process, but I am so much better than I was, right? And it's not all me. It's because I have trivia buffs. I have dedicated friends who have been with me since the beginning, right? That I have people who watch out for the riffraff who will come in and say a swear word, or ask a question that I don't mind the personal. I was actually in some content today, you know, about people right? Not being so open because, then people know what your triggers are and people know what your weaknesses are and everything. And I've always found, that if I'm truthful in that, not only does it make it possible for me to see who the riffraff are, because those people will take that information and run with it. They'll take that information and use it as a weapon against you. They'll use it to make you feel bad, right? And then that's riffraff. Owen, take care of it. Right? Right? But if I don't express myself, how's Owen to know, right? What Cindy's all about? What's going to make Cindy embarrassed? What's going to trigger Cindy and put her back into a moment when she was like 10 years old and, right, maybe break down in the middle of the live or something, right? So it's showing up every day and just being comfortable and getting to know the people and getting to appreciate the people who appreciate you. And yes, right, that does take time, right? That recognition and those relationships. We live in that world now where we can't always trust immediately. But for myself, I always find if I just put it out there, right? They'll show themselves, right? Because if you know that about me and you still used it against me, then why are we hanging out together, right? And how would Owen know that, Danny boy there needs to go, right? And be able to pluck him out. And I wouldn't even notice that Danny boy was even in the live. And I don't even have a moment to, right? Lose my breath, let alone catch, catch my breath. But also at the same time, being able to come in and just be myself. I do it in a way where I am myself. So it makes it possible for me not to have to lie, not to, well, do I exaggerate stories? I guess I do because I am a creative and I would be lying if I said that, right? Because in our creativity, we beautify things, right? Even things that are not good, sad stories, right? Bad experiences, we can white coat those and we can throw out the little white lies not to hurt people's feelings. But for the most part, I can come in here and I can have a regular conversation, right? Be who I am, trusting that, right, the comments are going to take care of themselves. Well, there are people there to take care of the comments and stuff. I could come in here and be myself and not have to beautify, not have to expand anymore, especially when I allow myself and those other parts of me to come into the mix at the same time, right? And if I lied, oh my goodness, I'd probably get a tummy ache pretty pretty fast. And I'm grateful, right, that I have a platform because that doesn't happen very often. I follow content creators, different people, different creators in different aspects of their understandings and in different aspects of their interests. And I see which ones, and I'm not saying which ones get them right and which ones get them wrong because there's no judgment in that because, it's just that if you come in character, you have to understand that character is now part of your life, right? When you're walking down the street and you meet Owen, you better be yourself because Owen's going to call you on it. or Owen's going to second guess what comments to yank out of there, and you end up with all kinds of riffraff that you don't appreciate, right? So I believe that, there are lots of benefits in being um genuine, being honest in showing up here. Right? But again, it doesn't take away the fact that I am only human, and because I'm only human, I could put my foot in my mouth. I could say something that hurts Andrew's feelings or gets Owen angry at me. I could, right? That's why I get a little bit nervous sometimes when you guys don't show up. I don't know, oh my goodness, what did I say? What did I do? Because it's never in my intent. And just because I move along with other people by appreciating and looking at intent. Not everybody does, right? It's something that I picked up along the way out of necessity, and it has served me very, very well. But I have to keep reminding myself that, right, that not everybody moves that way. And so being honest with people when, right, you're not feeling out intent, right? Because there are going to come times when, well, people will use what they know about you in a hurtful moment to say something, but you have to feel the intent in that. Did you bite first? Right? Did you say something mean to hurt them? Right? You have to look at the reason these things come into our lives, right? And not just right away say, that's it, never talking to them anymore, right? Don't need them in my life, right? They're out. They're narcissists. They're toxic. And yeah, I don't need that in my life. And what if that person just come out of just a really bad relationship, was not thinking, had a terrible, terrible headache that they couldn't even think, and they snapped at you because they couldn't think. It was just your voice was just like nails on a chalkboard to them, and they snapped. You got on their last nerve, and you've now just kicked them out of their life, and just, right, that's almost like kicking them when they're down, and they might perceive it as that, right? Because in their minds they think, right, they haven't done anything terrible, and just to tell you to shut up. Right, so you really have to look at the intent when people hurt you. And it's one of the reasons why I am honest and genuine in what I do, so that there is a signal there when somebody uses that information, right? And it could be a harmless, could be something that's frightening to them. They got triggered, right? But sometimes there is that intent, right? And we all know what that intent is, to actually be malicious, to hurt somebody, to get under their skin, to make them feel bad, to cough up the money, to do that chore that you don't want to do, to babysit the grandkids, right? Right? Okay, so let's look at this book really quickly. So it's by Kawasaki Awasaki. Oh, pretty good. Japanese name, I think. And Isaac Asimov. He's a space guy. And Carl Sagan. And he is also, I think he wasn't just a space guy. I think he was a geneticist, or he was no, he's in science somewhere. Andrew, trivia person, what was his specialty? It just says preface by Carl Sagan. What was his specific title in his career? Do you know? Hi, Taylor. No, oh, intent. No, mostly when people have intent, they'll go under their skin. They'll use sarcastic compliments sometimes. They'll sometimes pay attention where you put lots of attention into yourself or an art project or something, and they'll be hypercritical in that, right? Um, what I could give examples, you know, I could give examples, but then it would make people that these, right, people have been with me for a long time. They'd know who I was thinking about. So it's not, or talking about, so it wouldn't be prevalent. But in our experiences with people, when you're kids, sometimes you get to have a tendency to be very attentive, right, to situations, experiences, and people, and you can read into it, not in a psychic kind of way, but it's kind of a puzzle kind of way. We don't always, when lots of times, it's hard to explain in a live show, isn't it? Right, these are very personal aspects of people. It's kind of dredging the dirt on the workings, but these are workings that shouldn't be working, right? I would just have to say, when you're feeling out the intent, you're feeling whether or not somebody meant to hurt you, or somebody made you look bad, or somebody made you lose your job, right? Or somebody went behind your back. Like, there are lots, sometimes you can hear, and sometimes there are people out there who actually do care for you, and they've heard. Now, you don't listen to gossip, but if something is contradicting something in your life, you have every right to confront that, to talk about it, to resolve it, if at all possible, or, like lots of us do, not, and just make a mental note of it, right? Because people do make mistakes, people do put their foot in the mouth, people do accidentally hurt people, right? But if you decide, maybe forgive that one time, but if they used it again, right? And lots of times it's in the conversations that we have, and it's usually because things don't stick around for very long. It's when you look at intent, when somebody does do something to you and you're looking at that intent, that somebody is already covering up their tracks. They're already having conversations with other people. They might even have somebody there to back them up on that. I second that. Oh, I saw that. I heard her say something like that. That's true, right? It's something. It's a feeling. It's a feeling, and it comes from hypervigilance. It comes from looking out for your own safety. We're all responsible for our own safety. Everybody is, but but we just, I don't know. Some of us might say we are very naive in the way we interact with each other. And some people will look at it and say, we're just too cold. We're not close enough. Right. And you could say that's true too, because otherwise we wouldn't be warring anymore, would we? We wouldn't have well, I believe that, conflict is good when it's in the process of resolving something, but conflict for the sake of making somebody feel bad is intent. So there you go. Oh, that coffee's good. I make a good cup of coffee. I went back on the dairy this week. You guys know, like I eliminate things out of my life that I think that don't serve me very well. Past half a dozen years or so, I've been having a little bit of lactose intolerance for the dairy products and stuff. But not having the dairy, and the dairy makes my system run pretty good. My digestion makes things move pretty good. Dairy usually does that to people when you're lactose intolerant. Because I also struggle, right? Lots of times as you get older, there's right, you have a hard time. You need to be regular. And I know that there's nothing that will make me more regular than cream in my coffee. It's not cream, it's only milk, but okay, but look at these pictures, you guys, these prints in this book. And there's a lot of these prints. I think they said there were 48 prints. I'm not quite sure. But yeah, I've got this, and some of them are just, oh my goodness. But when I was talking about people seeing things in the sky and just using their imagination in something that hasn't been seen yet or photographed yet, this is all real now, and but at the time that some of these pictures were created, they just came from somebody's imagination. Yeah. If I love space more, I would take my straight knife and I'd cut out all those prints and I would put them in a frame. They would be awesome artwork for, I don't know, dentist or a body shop or something. I don't know. But yeah, I don't know why I brought that. Oh, we were talking about Carl Sagan. Did we find out what Carl Sagan was a expert in? Uh, Oh, a philosopher. Yes, he was. He was a philosopher too, for sure. For sure he was. He was one of my dad's favorites. Um, I think you're a little bit under the influence. Okay. um, I really don't know that much about Carl Sagan. Yeah, I think of him as an author and even philosopher. Yeah, he had a lot of books, didn't he? I think I have one of his paperbacks here. I tried to read it. I think I got one chapter in and it wasn't clicking with me. But I know that if I wait a span and as I get to learn a little bit about what he's up to and who he's all about, that sometimes I can give something another shot and really, really enjoy it. That's why, right? I'm really enjoying taking in Carl Jung. I'm having a little bit of problem with the AI distribution of his content because they're mixing it up with present day, and Carl Jung would not be right commenting on what's going on in the world right now unless it was reflective in his studies when he lived, and he's been gone since 1961. So him having insights on some aspects that weren't even, again, they were just imaginations. They weren't really facts until something is created. You need that action with that. Just having a creative idea. I've got all kinds of ideas going on in my noggin, but right, without me putting that action towards those ideas, none of them are going to happen. Right? They're just ideas until somebody else, or what we were talking about, Cindy expresses herself too much, throws out her idea, right? And somebody else runs with that ball. That could happen too. But I wouldn't throw it out there unless I needed somebody to run with that ball. And that's the truth too. That's a little bit of tidbit. Really read into it however you like. But you know what? It is in my intent at the very least to get that message out in that moment. That message comes to me, and that's why I just leave myself open when I do my lives. But I know if I'm going to do that, I have to be myself, right? I can't be somebody that I'm not. I can't be on script. I can't have even on occasion, sometimes I can write a topic down, but never get to it, right? I was wanting to talk about goals today, right? I have my goal sheet here for this year, things that I want to accomplish this year. But then, right, some things, because we never know how much we're truly capable of until we're in that movement, right? And things could change in a minute, which would allow you to do so much more, or things can change in a minute that would make it so none of this is possible, right? And so tonight, because it's the last time we're going to talk before New Year's Eve, right? That's Wednesday, right? Unless you come into my what's my good cheer during the week, because you guys know I'll be here on Wednesday night, right? So if you wanted to pop in there, but tonight's our last chance to talk about goals, and I thought maybe I'd share some of those goals. I kept it pretty simple, taking a look at where I'm at now, and then just adding a few things, knowing that, right, I don't get these things accomplished, they'll just go on to my list for next year, right? They'll just go on to my list for next year. Okay, so let's finish up with these comments before we go into goals and the new year. Oh, well, I'm already down there. Okay, let's go into the goals, you guys. I set a list today, taking into consideration in the moment. I'm barely putting a roof over my head, but I am managing, right? And I'm more than managing, because in that process, I am applying myself, and I think I'm moving, right? How far ahead, how far behind, or even if I'm in the right lane, I don't know. But, right, I am following the follow me's. That's all I'm going to say. So, um, on my goal list this year, I need a new desk. I am using packing tape to keep one of my cupboards closed, right? I would like a new desk, right? Just to feel comfortable about where I am. None of these things here are an absolute necessity besides my new computer. I desperately need a desktop Windows 11. I have my laptop. I love my laptop, right? And it was part of a goal list. Otherwise, I wouldn't have my laptop. And that was just one of the smartest decisions. And it was just a spur of the moment. I got to do this. This is how I'm spending this money, and done, right? Didn't think about it. And I'm so glad that I did, right? But my desktop has got to be over 10 years old now. It's got no RAM left. And I do love my big monitors when I'm working, and I like my uh having grounded internet, and I like having my phone and my Wi-Fi internet. So makes it so that no matter what, I'm going to show up. Something's going to work, because there's numerous ways for me to get in there and show up. There's no excuse for me to not to show up. So the priority, I'm going to try and get that done next week. The week after, right? For sure. And I don't need it brand new, but I do need a Windows 11, and I don't even need lots of RAM on it because I got lots of RAM on my laptop. All my work can be done on my laptop. But when I'm streaming, when I'm in my lessons and stuff, right? I need my desktop. The tent, you guys. Where's my highlighter? I get to cross something off my goal list for this year already. And for those of you who haven't hung out with me for too long, my goal list gets put in place by the end of October. By the time, right, my birthday is on the 22nd. I give myself to the 30th. My goal list has to be ready for the year, and these are the things that I work on throughout the year in moving towards getting them done, whether they're gifts, whether I have to go to work and save money, right? Whether right, something comes across my path and somebody just says here, right? So if I have my list, I can check them off. And because I'm somebody whose self-worth, I'm just gonna fix this here. My self-worth comes from, well, my self-worth comes from finishing things, accomplishing things. It used to come from what other people thought of me, what other people thought I was capable of, how I could save the day, how hard I can work, how hard I can multitask. And I still do. I love still doing a lot of that, right? But now that self-worth, it comes from me actually making a little bit of movement in my life. So every year I put this list together of goals and I work towards them. I don't always get everything on the goal list done, but it'll just go on the goal list for the next year. And I still pat myself on the shoulder because I'm getting things scratched off. Like right now, I am scratching off my new pop-up tent because my sister Tracy took care of that for me for Christmas. It was my Christmas present. She got me a new tent. And did I show you guys? I'm trying to think. What day? Sunday? No, you guys haven't seen my tent. I showed it on my live show, my other live show, but I didn't show it. Can you believe that this is a tent? It's a six man pop-up tent. It's going to take me 30 seconds. It's going to take me 30 seconds to get that tent up. And I don't know how long it's going to take me to put it back in the bag, but the instructions are on the bag, and I will for sure practice a couple of times before I go on my trip. But you guys, my tent, and that was a big one, right? Came right off my goal list. Now I need a new pair of walking shoes for when I go on my hikes, and I want a good pair. I want a pair that's going to last me a few years if I can, for the rest of my life at all possible. But I'm going to have to invest a decent amount of money because it's not something I don't think I'm going to find in a thrift store, that I'm not going to get a good score in the moment. Uh, so I'm going to have to invest some money in a new pair of walking shoes for my trips that I do in September, and for my hiking trails and stuff, right? I need a new office chair. My office chair is just as old as my desk, and pieces of it are falling onto the floor, and I'm not quite sure where they're coming from. I took a look underneath. I kind of think I know where it's coming from, but I don't know how much support there's going to be because they keep popping out all the time and then they're not going back in. They're just being thrown into the garbage when they pop out. So I'm assuming that at some point I'm going to end up on my floor in my living room because everything will just cave out from underneath me because I didn't think that I had a great opportunity to get a lot of things done off of my list. I did put some things there that, of course, my September trip, that right, that's mine. That's Cindy's and that is um, my bag at the end of the stick. That's my reward. And that comes whether I feel I deserved it or I don't deserve it, right? I'm not somebody who punishes myself, but also at the same time, in saying that, I'm not somebody who is consistently someone who lets themselves down. And so, my trip is a priority every year. And this year I did pretty good in my budgeting. The whole trip I think cost me about $1,500. The year before it was about $7,000. But I had a really, really nice vehicle and I was gone for a couple of weeks last year. This year I was just gone for 8 days. Um, but yeah, but that trip, it's on the list. And even though in the moment I might not be putting money towards that trip, I am every day planning. I've got all the parks that I want to do. I haven't got the campsites done, but that's something fun for me to do. And that might be something that I might like to do tomorrow, right? Because once I'm into that, I'll be on it for 2 or 3 hours and I will have rough ideas of what campsite I want in each one of those parks, and I'll have my dates down packed. I think I already have them down packed because I have to leave on the 12th of September this year because a couple of the parks that I want to go to close the first or second week of September. So if I want to do those parks, I have to leave on my trip a little bit earlier. But I don't think it will make a difference because you guys know I love fall, that I love the colors and the smell, and I love everything about going on these trips in the fall. I don't think it will make a big difference, only because it's going to be another 2 or 3 week trip that I'm taking because I'm going further in. I'm going into the central part of Ontario, and that'll take me a few days just to get to that end of that province. It's right. People come here. I actually had if you guys know Eames from Exploring and Me, he was in Toronto and he messaged me. He says, Cindy, can you come and pick me up? He says, can you come and pick me up? We'll go urban exploring. We'll go find some mansions and stuff. And I says, I'm in Manitoba. He says, well, how long will it take you to get here? And I says, well, it'll probably take me 3 days. It'll probably take me 3 days to drive to where you are. I says, and I just came back. And at that point I had just come back from Toronto. So I really couldn't afford a second trip right away. I would have loved to have seen him. He's so nice. And he loves my niece, Ashley. And like he thinks she's like the sexiest, sweetest thing ever. But my niece is pretty shy. And he lives in Belgium, right? So it'd be really hard for them to connect that way. But yeah, he's got her on his Instagram, and yeah, he's one of those, what do you call those, far away admirers, right? But if I ever go to Europe and I go with my sister, I bet you he'll go high and low to meet her in whatever country that we go decide to visit. It's funny, we were talking at Christmas, me and my niece, about destinations, because she loves to travel. She does a lot more than what I ever did, and she hasn't done any serious international traveling, but she travels all over North America, which is how we did it. My dad loved North America. We've been all over North America, except for the east coast of the states. I don't think we were on. Could be, but I don't remember. I would have been very young because I don't remember doing the east coast of the United States. But other than that, we've been all over North America. But she loves to travel, and she's got a really good job with the Red Cross, and so she can afford to take these magnificent trips. So we were talking about dream trips and stuff, and I says, "Oh, I'd love to go to Scotland, right? Love to go to Portugal, Spain, Italy. I'd love to go to the Mediterranean, right? I'd love to do Croatia. I think Croatia would be pretty amazing." And she absolutely loved the places, right? Scotland. She's, oh my goodness, Scotland's on the list. Italy's on the list, right? Like all the places that she wants to go to. If I had woken up to these some of these ideas, oh my goodness, what a gift that would have been in my 20s, right? All that money I made in the 20s, I would not 1920s, but when I was in my 20s. I worked in bars and nightclubs, and oh my goodness, so much money, right? So much money. I was making, oh, at least $300 a day. Sometimes I'd make $1,000 in a shift. Like, it was such crazy money as a server in the bar. And especially when the Hells Angels, they'd come through. I'm all over the place tonight, but Hells Angels used to come to our bar once a year. They'd drive across Canada for some fundraiser or something that they would do, or convention that they did every year. They'd go to BC, right, or Alberta, and they would always come to the hotel, and I would be their server every year. And oh my goodness, I made so much money. They were only here for 2 days, but I tell you, I could take a couple of months off in what I would make in those 2 days of taking care of those guys, right? Because you just don't serve them their drinks. You have to take care of them because they're the Hells Angels. They're like movie stars when they come into the bars, in all honesty, right? They're celebrities, and people want to be around them. And it's not always comfortable, let's say, or safe, right? Because people don't know the etiquette of the colors, right? If you accidentally sat in their chair, or you touched their jackets, or touched a patch, or interrupted them in a conversation, like, right, it could be lots of problems. And we would be expected to make sure that they would have an enjoyable time, uninterrupted by, right, the busyness that could happen, right, when you have people like that. And you know in truth, I never looked at them as bad people. I know lots of people do look at them as bad people. But, when I was a little kid, and I'm not even saying a little kid, because I remember living in that house, and I was in my teens already. But they had a clubhouse down the hill from where we lived, on the same street, but the street just kind of went like this, right? And then at the bottom of the hill, the Hells Angels had a clubhouse. And you could always hear when they start their bikes, right? And they always loved to take the hill because it was a very steep hill. If you know Vancouver, lots of hills. It's like San Francisco. They would come up the hill, and you could hear them revving their engines and stuff. And all the neighborhood kids, we would all run to the curb like it was a parade. And we would scream, Candyman, Candyman. And those guys would come up on their bikes and they would throw candy at us. Like, seriously. And that was every day or every second day, right? At least. And, you know, it gave me an idea of what these men and women were about because their girlfriends were with them too, and their girlfriends could be pretty scary sometimes too, right? So I already had good good feelings about them, and so when they started coming to the bars, I was just so it just turned out that every year I had to be their server. They wouldn't want anybody else to take care of them. I'm sure they would tolerate somebody. I mean, if I quit my job, but right, it was well into my 40s before I was brave enough to quit that job, to give that job up. Oh my goodness, and it was funny, you know, to think that I worked as hard as I did and just to make a fraction of the money that the other girls did because they were all young and cute, and I was already moving into my 40s. If I had stayed with that job as somebody in their 60s, I bet you I would have made a killing for sure. I really liked bartending and waitressing because it reflected the money you made reflected how good you were at your job, right? And that was the truth, and I felt I was perfect for that position. But remember what I said, it offered up a mix to my experiences because of the experience that I had. It added to those social tendencies that I might not have had because I was an introvert. I didn't have a lot of friends, right? Uh, Partying and friends and clubbing and all of that. That that came about because of the crew that I had decided to hang out with, right? They hung out at the bar, and then the opportunity for the job at the bar happened through the bar manager who happened to be a customer of mine at the video store that I was managing, right? And that was right at that moment when I had lost all that weight and turned into a butterfly, literally. And it just was just perfect for me. And in that, practicing my craft and making my money and recognizing that, oh my goodness, the amount of money that I made represented how good I was at my job or how much people really liked me and appreciated me. It made me to want to do a better job. But in doing a better job, it made it so that I had social skills, right? That I got to recognize that it takes all kinds to make the world, right? That people didn't have to live by one set of rules, that they could be themselves. And also that they appreciated me because I was myself. And so I brought that here to my brand because it worked, right? I built some amazing relationships when I was working at the bars and the nightclubs. I really did. And friends that, I still call them friends. I don't see them maybe once a year or something, but when I bump into them, oh my goodness, it's like we haven't stopped hanging out. And I think that's absolutely just beautiful, but those are skills that I would not have been able to have if it hadn't been for that job that taught me, right, through repetition. Because every customer I greeted, every beer I served was an opportunity to make a dollar, right? I got really good at my job, and I got really good at having fun at my job, and it became kind of like a prerequisite to jobs. And that's why I never did well at jobs until this last one I had, is because I missed it. I missed not just the money, but I missed the fun. I miss the conversation. I miss the customer, the building, and I miss that interaction that I got to have with people I didn't know, and to truly appreciate that it takes all kinds to make the world, because, right, I was meeting all kinds, right? And they were being just as genuine with me as I was with them. And believe me, right? They would have sensed it in a minute if I wasn't, right? So yeah, walking shoes. I need a pair of walking shoes. My new office chair. I need a new camp chair. I fell in love with my sister's camp chair when I was on my trip this year. And so I think I'd like to invest a decent money, unless I can find a decent chair at a decent thrift price. I'm going to invest like $150 on a good camping chair. I need a new hose for my new camp stove. Um, just so I feel safe, I have a hose bar, but I feel much more comfortable by just making sure that I have a hose that I can just attach to my propane tank. So I'm gonna pick that up. That'll probably be $50 or something in that. But these, right? It's just not big things on my list. It's even the little things, because if you can scratch that little thing off the list, like it's going to feel so good to put my list back on the fridge. And I'm not even into technically the new year, and I've already got the tent knocked off, right? In another week or two, I'm going to have my new computer knocked off that list. I can guarantee you, if I didn't have my list, I would say, oh, right, pink donut with sprinkles sounds really good. But if I do that, then I won't have enough to pay the taxes on the computer. Oh, well, maybe the computer can wait another week or two, right? And I would talk myself out of it. I would do exactly the same with the computer as I do when I come into my hit that live button, Cindy. Hit that live button, Cindy. Go live, right? And just procrastinate in that, and then just not get that stuff done on my trip. This year, I would really like to give it a shot. I was in today, I was updating my PayPal account. Um, I would really like to get my first paying client. I've been working in emotions for a long time, and not just working in emotions for a long time, but I have been delving into my own emotions and my own experiences. And I'm a big believer in baby steps, right? But I'm also a big believer in shadow work, right? I believe that if we can get some of these issues off of us that have bothered us our entire life, that we just go, I don't even want to think about it. I'm not even going back there again. I'm not going to give that person another shot. I don't want to understand. I don't want to hear. I'm done, right? Those are things that could have come into my life right now when things are starting to move a little bit better and bite me in the butt. But because I can't say for sure 100% until I'm triggered in that, but I have been triggered and have been able to add some of those practical tools that I picked up along the way to, right, just dissolve it like a sandcastle where it just dries out and just goes, right, and just totally dissolves. And when I think that way, that tells me that I have something now at that point that will probably benefit somebody else who might have had experiences in their own dynamic upbringing that is tripping them up. as adults or tripping them up in what they want to accomplish in their goals and stuff, right? I help along the way, right? But I've been practicing my craft. I have not been making money on it. So, my idea is that this year, my first paying client, and oh my goodness, my first paying client is going to get a good deal. My first couple of clients are going to get a good deal in that, right? Because that's part of the contribution. That's part of the give back. You get what you give, and you help somebody make their first step, and then right, that comes back as just much as the crappy stuff can come up and bite you in the butt, the good stuff can come in and bite you in the butt too. I also put three big things on my list because, like I said, you never know what miracles can step into your life at any moment. Your life can change in an instant. What? Your third removed great aunt on your uncle's side has passed away and left you $3.7 million, right? Life would change in that moment. Would we be ready for that? Would we have things on that list that you're not going to get pressured into making moves that you don't want to do, that all the relatives and friends friends of friends all come out of the woodwork and remember me, right? That you want to make sure that you are ready and you have ideas and things that you can apply right away with your money. I was talking about this, I think it was on my Chatters Live, right? And they said they just made a big mistake and they handed it all over. And I says, next time, don't do that, right? Take care of yourself first. Oh, that was Robert. Oh, right. Yeah, he got that exact same situation I was just talking about. I haven't heard from Robert in a little while. I'm wishing Robert Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. I hope you go into the new year with a lot of good things, and everybody else who's going to pop in later and put their feet out and listen to a little bit of Cindy yibber yabbering off and asking the guys questions along the way. Yeah, so the three things I put here to be ready for that 3.5 million is number one, hire an editor. Me hiring an editor would make the content so much better, and I would be much appreciative as somebody who is much more talented at it than I am to take over that role and edit me some amazing adventure videos from my adventures, my September trips, in whatever. I might even be inspired to film more, right? Take you guys out on my evening walks and stuff. If I knew I didn't have to come home and edit that video and put it up, right? It just means, for me, too much on my list, that I'm juggling too much in the moment, right? Cindy needs to be a smarty pants, right? And not just a smarty pants in knowledge that she's picking up along the way, but what she's delving into in the quietness of her day to day, in that gift I was given, in that little kick in the butt that, right, turned my life into a 180 turn, a good 180. Okay, but that, hire an editor, right? The SUV. You guys, I need a vehicle. I always need a vehicle. I keep saying that, but you know what? When I keep saying that, I have to remind myself, where would I be if I had that vehicle? Or should I say, where wouldn't I have been if I hadn't lost my vehicle. How long has it been now? 3 years, 4 years since I've lost my vehicle, right? Didn't lose it, but it's another story, right? But there was a reason for that, and this is what makes that bite a little bit easier to digest, is because I wouldn't have applied myself, because I would have been out on the road. I would have been in that adventurous mindset. I would be exploring the outside when I needed to apply myself, right? Because that Carl Jung is hard to understand. That Sam Vatkin, he's pretty fast and he's got some fancy words, right? It takes a lot of digestion and paying attention in the lessons. And I wouldn't have been able to do that, right? If I hadn't lost my car. It's really wonderful that I can enjoy learning and in the topics, right, that I love, right? The topics that I love. And yet, right, all I could think about was I was taken out at the knees, right? Because I didn't have a vehicle. That wasn't the case in the very least. I think having a vehicle might have taken me out at the knees, because I would still be sitting here right now going, "Oh, my first pain client," right? And then and think you're there, and I'm only at a fraction of the insight as where I'm just gonna send some good cheer, get to your destination, be a false alarm. They're going downtown, they're going to a different route, but it doesn't mean they don't get the good cheer. They get the good cheer. Okay, I got my hand up here. I was gonna say something. I totally forgot in the fire trucks, right? Yeah, it's gone. Let's have a sip of my coffee. SUV, right? Oh, that's what I was talking about. I wouldn't be here right now. I know if I had that vehicle, I would have been on the road, right? I would have been I'd be doing van life videos. You guys would be watching me renovate my van and being in the provincial parks and living on the road, right? And I know you guys would have loved that. And we'll do that for sure. We'll do the van life thing, but there's a time and place for everything, and I would have missed out desperately, desperately, desperately would have missed out on so much if I had had a vehicle. I know I would have. I wouldn't have been able to control myself. Now, I would have been on the road with myself, right? The lessons would have continued, but the world moves, right? Whether I'm there or not. And just because, I'm out on the road, that doesn't mean that the world's going to stop moving for me and then I'm going to come back and all that information's going to be there, right? Because the world is always changing, and I have a hard time, right, missing out on something that's going on in the world that I suspect. It's funny that I think that way, because I have no interest in the news or anything like that, right? Once a day I'll go into some headlines just to see what's going on in the world, and then I'm out of there. I'm done, right? And I'm not entertaining myself with frivolous stuff. Everything is about, right, making a little bit of movement, whether for me, for somebody else, right, for my brand even. It's uh it's a different way of thinking and a different way of living. That's for sure. Okay, the last thing I had on my list for this year, right? And it's not to say all of this is going to happen this year, but this is the goals. If I can get this, well, if I can get this stuff, I'm a master manifester for sure. But to get a few of these things checked off would make me super happy. And I made sure that the first part of my list was quite feasible, even at minimum income coming into my household. But the other ones, the editor, the SUV, And the last one, the RV. You got to put the big ones on the list too, because you don't know what comes across your path, right? Maybe I'll have some big RV dealership saying, "Oh, Cindy, you're the perfect person to sell our RVs," right? We got this B class, it's got your name all over it. You want it? Yes, please. And off I go on another adventure. But I got to be ready then, right? I would have to be ready because then the only mentorship that I would have if I was on the road was, well, myself and Mother Nature, right? And in those conversations that I have along the way. And I'm sure there'll be lots of those interactions with others, but it's not the same as taking in the facts, getting it from the horse's mouth, right? I learned from not just psychologists, but the teachers, the university teachers who teach the psychologists, the professors, right? So it's important for me to have that information because that information could be so pertinent in somebody else's life. And because I'm down on some road in Louisiana, some marsh and swampland in Louisiana, that I miss the most important insight that could ever come across my path. At some point, I'm going to have to let it go. I understand that. And it could be just as much an addiction in that movement as anything. But I gotta trust that when it's ready to happen, it's going to be ready to happen. And I know when it's going to be ready to happen. When I SUV shows up in the front of the building, that big red bow on it, right? Then I'll know it's time. Okay, you guys. Let's come into the comments and see, guys, what you're yapping about. But yeah, so for goal setting this year, and you guys, like I said, I do my goals by the end of October. They're ready to go. And I'm already working on them. Like I said, the tent is off the list. The computer will be hopefully coming off the list in the next week or two. That would be absolutely amazing, right? But every year, we should have a few things that we want to knock off that we've been kind of putting off in the moment or putting off for a lifetime, right? But then when you let the roof go and you just put a pot underneath where it's leaking on the roof, that'll do you for a little while, but eventually you're going to have to do a major repair if you let it just keep dripping without giving it any attention, right? Okay. Oh, you got your Christmas card, William. Hi, William. I'm glad. No, you don't, dear. I never give anything with an expectation ever, right? Ever. Even if it's a birthday gift or anything like that, never with expectation of getting anything in return. That's what kindnesses are, you guys, right? Just to let you know that I think of you and I appreciate you. I appreciate that you come in and hang out with me. You can't send anything. And I don't want you to send anything because it's going to cost me a fortune with all the tariffs. That's not true. It's okay for the Americans to get stuff from Canada. You don't have to pay. Oh no, it's okay for Canadians to buy things off the Americans on eBay and in stores and stuff and not have to pay the tariffs. But the Americans, if they buy anything from Canada, their tariffs could be equal to the item that they're buying. So Canada has lost a lot of money. You guys know my sister is an eBay seller. She had to switch everything to marketplace, and she didn't even do a good job. She's struggling so bad, and she's so sad in that. She's had her eBay uh, shop for, oh my goodness, at least 40 years. This woman is yeah, she's had it. I think since it started up eBay, she has been on it, and she is one of their top sellers. But nobody will buy off of her because they buy a $40 item, they're going to have to pay $40 in tariffs on that item unless my sister can prove that it was made in the States. And that would be the only qualification to not have to pay the tariffs, as if it was made in the States. And so that's just too much. And when you consider the fact that PayPal takes 20% too, right? So yeah, my sister Alice is really struggling with her channel. I wish I could do something for her. I offered to put a link down below um, for her, but she doesn't want to sell her stuff on eBay just because it's just too difficult for her customers. And it's difficult for her because her customers are getting really upset by it, right? Because they're not expecting to go to the post office to pick up their parcel and then have to dish out another big chunk to the post office, right? And for President Trump. So she just not been selling on eBay at all, right? Yeah, I feel bad for my sister Allison. She's such an entrepreneur too. She'll figure something else out, right? But she gets comfy in something, and that's her problem. She gets comfy in something, she doesn't want to move, and she's comfy with eBay. You can tell because she's not listing on Marketplace. I'm doing better on Marketplace than she is. Okay, you guys, let's come in and say our goodbyes for tonight. I will be back tomorrow, you guys, if you guys want to come in at all, if you're ever available in the evening. Uh, what's my good chair? It's 9 o'clock, 9 o'clock Central. I'll be there for the rest of the week. Here is a Sunday show. I only do it on Sundays, but I have a great crew. You can tell it's great conversations with these guys. I appreciate you guys. You're very welcome. You're very welcome, you guys. I'm glad you guys got your cards. Thank you, everybody, for coming into my live tonight. I appreciate it. I feel like going and having some kind of treat or something. It's been like Christmas. All I've been doing is eating treats and stuff. Even allowing myself candy. If you guys hang out with me, I gave up candy like 20 years ago, but I get suckered into it at Christmas time with the quality treats and the treats and stuff. So I usually let myself have the candy at Christmas because there is no at Christmas. If you want something, it's yes, right? But I usually have difficulties quitting the candy. It usually will take me a couple of weeks when I'm so fed up with myself for not being able to get off the candy again after being on it for a couple of days at Christmas, which it's only supposed to be for a couple of days. And then I get upset with myself after a couple of weeks of still being on the candy because, of course, it all goes on sale after Christmas, and there's nothing like getting 50% off of a pound of chocolate. The way I think, right? The way I think sometimes. But I did really good this year, you guys, right? I came off the candy yesterday, and I haven't had any candy today. There's no candy in my house, and so we are back on track until next Christmas when I can partake in the Christmas treats again. It's those quality street chocolates. Oh my goodness, they're so good. Even though they took the beautiful foils away, they are good chocolates. Okay, you guys, that's it for me. Have a great week. Do you work this week, Andrew? Or is it your slow period where you're going to have some time off? Owen, happy New Year's. If I don't see you on New Year's Eve, if you want to pop in, on New Year's Eve to my live on my other live show that I do. Happy to have you. Uh, if not, we'll see you next Sunday. Everybody, Happy New Year. Merry Christmas. It has been a really nice season this year. Yeah, it was a nice end to 2025. Oh my goodness. Who would ever have known? Everybody, have a great night.